Say good morning to everyone all over central Indiana this morning as we give you a bright look over downtown Indianapolis. But you'll notice that cloud coverage overhead there. And that's because we had some rain overnight. But guess what? The cloud coverage keeping the temperatures in. So we're in the 50s this morning.
It's a nice little blanket for us this morning, Stain. And we actually were flirting with 60s over the weekend, Lindsay. I'm not complaining about that.
Yesterday was just awesome.
Yeah.
It was such a welcomed break from this deep freeze we've been in the past couple weeks. It's been abnormally cold so far this month, so we needed it. And we're going to be above average again today as we sit in the warm sector of this weather system again. Now, this did bring pretty widespread rain overnight. Many spots here in the state picking up nearly a half an inch of rainfall. Still looking at some organized rain across the northern half of the state. Believe most of this is going to wrap up. Could see some lingering showers, especially in southeastern Indiana as this front approaches. But for the most part today, we're just going to be looking at mainly cloudy skies and your temperature that will hold steady kind of right there near the 50-degree mark. That's where we currently sit in downtown Indy. Could drop off another degree or two during the morning hours, but then recover back into the lower 50s this afternoon. Again, everybody, for the most part, these are your current temperatures right there near that 50-degree mark, and then same deal this afternoon. Back to 53 for a forecast high temperature, mostly cloudy. A stray shower will be possible as we go through the afternoon hours today. But then eventually we're talking some cooler air set to return. So as far as that rain timeline today goes, again, between now and about noon, we'll keep a stray shower possible. And then on through the afternoon hours today, this takes us through 4 p.m. Southern portions of the state could see a lingering shower, but for the most part, just going to be one of those gloomy days overall. We will talk about that much colder air set to arrive midweek, but at 6:02, I want to get you out to the traffic center because we've got some pretty big changes on the northeast side of town that I do want to break down as you're heading out the door this morning. Over the weekend, of course, we had those lane closures. We had ramps that were closed on 69 South. Well, the new pavement is now open. So this is what you need to know. This is that ramp that's going to take you down to Benford Boulevard, but the new pavement is now open to 465, those ramps. So here's what you need to know if you're traveling down that new I-69 corridor. Basically, you need to make a decision at 96th Street if you're going to use Benford Boulevard because you'll want to use that far left lane. Then the new I-465 ramps. This is going to be that new pavement, that new ramp system. It's also going to have that new 82nd Street on-ramp open. However, from 82nd Street, you can only access I-465 as of right now as construction continues at this junction. So keep that in mind. We've got new pavement, new traffic flow pattern. 69 southbound will likely cause some issues as everyone kind of gets used to those new ramps that are open.
Thank you, Lindsay. Well, new this morning, 2 men were rescued after they became stranded on an island in the White River here in Indy overnight.
And this happened around 1:30 this morning on the city's near northwest side. IFD tells us the men were trying to do a good deed and recover some stolen bikes off that island. They made their way over using a small raft, but that raft ended up floating away while they were still stuck on the island.
So they were stranded there for about 90 minutes until somebody nearby finally heard them yelling for help, and that person called 911. IFD was able to rescue them and get those men back to shore, cold and a little wet, but unharmed.
That's good news.
Well, right now, IMPD is looking into a weekend crash that killed one man who was walking in downtown.
Yeah, take a look at this map. This is where this happened just before 4 a.m. yesterday near 10th and Illinois Streets. Metro Police tell 13 News a man was hit by a car just a few blocks from downtown. And police reports say the driver's car had some front end damage, but the driver did stay there on the scene to talk with officers about what happened. So detectives are working to figure out more details this morning as the Marion County Prosecutor's Office will determine if that driver will face any charges. According to the group Indy Pedestrian Crisis, that crash is the 3rd traffic fatality just over the weekend in Indianapolis. This is the only one involving a pedestrian.
This morning, fire investigators are trying to determine what caused an apartment fire in Greenwood.
Yeah, people nearby reported an explosion, and we've learned that one person inside of that apartment died in the fire. Our Anna Chalker has the latest.
The fire here at this Greenwood apartment complex started in the back corner. As you can see, it's completely destroyed, and crews are still working through the damage to determine what caused this fire. Just after 11 Sunday morning, Greenwood firefighters were called to the Clearview apartments for a report of an explosion. As the first unit arrived, they found the fire in the back of this building. And once firefighters got inside, they found a person dead and then evacuated 6 additional units. Right now, it's unclear how this fire started.
So the fire was contained to the one apartment building. Occupants of the surrounding buildings were evacuated as a precaution. We are working closely with the apartment complex to make sure that the subjects that were put out of their apartment have a place to stay.
The department says several surrounding agencies stepped up Sunday to help everyone inside this complex.
It's something that questions aren't asked, they get up and go, and we all come together, like I said, as a village to help the people that are going through a tragedy in this early morning.
The Indiana State Fire Marshal is assisting the Greenwood Fire Department in this investigation. In Greenwood, Anna Chalker, 13 News.
The Red Cross and the Fire Angels, which is a nonprofit in Johnson County, are also helping people who were displaced by the fire.
Well, the civil trial for former Indiana Attorney General Curtis Hill has now been called off. This was supposed to start today, but the court announced last night that both parties have reached an agreement and the case is being dismissed. Hill was accused of groping a lawmaker and 3 staffers during a 2018 party. The women originally filed a suit in federal court, but that was dismissed, and they later refiled in state court. In 2020, the Indiana Supreme Court ordered Hill to pay $19,000, and he was suspended from practicing law for 30 days in a disciplinary case.
Well, this morning, Indiana State Police are investigating a road rage incident on I-65 where 2 drivers pulled guns and 1 man was shot multiple times.
It's a wild story. Troopers got this call Friday about a sideswipe crash near Henryville in southern Indiana. They say the drivers of a Chrysler minivan and a Ford Bronco were speeding up and slowing it down all down the roadway and making hand gestures at each other. Police say both drivers got off at that Henryville exit, pulled over on the ramp, and then pulled guns. They say the woman driving the Bronco fired 4 shots at that man driving the minivan. State police say this kind of violence is unfortunate and completely preventable.
To become interactive with another person to the extent that someone gets shot is simply unacceptable on Indiana's highways.
Well, the Bronco driver is now in a Louisville hospital. We don't know how he's doing, but we know that the woman is now in police custody.
Well, it is official. 2 teams will represent Indiana in the college football playoffs.
IU is taking on Notre Dame in the first round, and this matchup comes after historic seasons for both the Hoosiers and the Fighting Irish. Let's get to Matthew Fultz, who is breaking this down this morning. First, what the coaches of both teams are saying this morning. Hey, Matthew.
Hey, they are fired up. They're preparing for these matchups. And get this, both teams are finishing 11-1 to finish the regular season, so this matchup will be pretty entertaining. And it's also the first time the Hoosiers have made the playoffs in their program history. So this will be a first year that the expanded college football playoffs will allow 12 teams instead of just 4, which we've seen in the past. The Hoosiers capitalizing on the expansion with the best season in their program history. The only loss they had this season was to Ohio State. Meanwhile, the Fighting Irish have won 10 straight games since September 7th. This will be the first time they will host a playoff college game. We actually heard from both coaches just after the brackets were announced.
I saw enough of them against Purdue to know that they're an excellent football team, and when you look at their scores, they haven't played in very many close games. So I'm sure they'll be quite the challenge, but we're looking forward to it. We're a good football team.
And the offense has done a good job of taking care of the football, being consistent at what they do, and done some really good things in the red zone. So that's just my initial look at them. Obviously, we have a few days to really take a deep dive and figure out a plan of attack as we get ready for a Friday game.
And those 2 teams will face off next Friday, December 20th in South Bend. So kickoff is going to be at 8 p.m. You'll hear more from fans, and ticket prices. We'll break that down at 6:30.
Oh, the ticket prices. We've heard so much about those since this was announced.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Right,
Matthew.
thank you, Matthew.
Well, now let's talk about the Pacers this morning, where they continue to struggle. The team has lost 5 of their last 6 games, including one last night against the Charlotte Hornets.
The final score was close, 113 to 109. The Pacers forced Charlotte into 25 turnovers last night, but also surrendered 10 offensive rebounds. So one of the big Pacer highlights from last night was TJ McConnell, as he recorded the first 30-point game of his career. So up next, the Pacers traveled to Philadelphia Friday night to face the 76ers. Tip-off for that game is at 7 p.m.
Well, 6:10, President-elect Trump makes his choice for the next counselor of the president, the connection Trump has to Alina Habba.
And caught on video, a teenage inmate tries to get away from a juvenile detention facility. A look at how police finally caught up to him over the weekend. Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning. Overnight, picking up nearly a half an inch of rainfall, but the steady rain now moving out. We're still going to be left behind with some clouds and some mild temperatures till that cold front comes through. A warmer start to the week, but we'll talk about a midweek cold snap headed our way.